Greetings everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds, where Craig Jones and Donald Cerrone kind of headline the event, but we're going to talk about the event in full. But first, we're going to do the giveaway for the $50 BJJ Fanatics gift card. So 27 of you left a comment on the last video, which entered you to win this gift card. So what I'm going to do to pick the winner is I'm going to do an equation here, which is equals rand between 2 and 28, which will give me a random number between column 2 and column 28. And when I press enter, it looks like Christopher Noah Sayers is the winner. So congratulations, Christopher. I'll reach out to you. And thank you to the rest of you for your comments and your support. And Christopher's comment had to do with the Patreon. So that's kind of a nice transition. And if you don't know what I'm talking about right now, check out the latest video where we talk about how we're going to structure this channel. But the Patreon is going to be an intricate part of that. And I started to create the Patreon page, and notice they have a little statement here that says, "We only succeed when you succeed," because they take a small percentage once we start earning money on Patreon. So what is that small percentage? That small percentage is 8%, which to me seems pretty high, especially when you combine it with the processing fees here. So if we charge $5, then we're paying like 11% fee plus 30 cents. That seems kind of a lot to me. But at the same time, I think Patreon is a great way to make it super convenient for you all. And at the end of the day, I think that is the most important thing. So on top of that, I reached out to BJJ Fanatics for their affiliate program so that we can get 30% kickback on instructionals that we buy. But unfortunately, they only work with websites. So in order to work with BJJ Fanatics, we would need a website. So if we had a website that worked with Stripe, I think that would be ideal. However, the website has to have 100,000 clicks per month for them to consider working with us. So obviously we're very far away from that. And in order to make a website, the platforms charge a fee. So right now I'm thinking in the long run, the best bet is to make a website and not pay that 8% platform fee to Patreon. But initially, I'm thinking for convenience, we use Patreon and kind of assess how much money is being run through there and then build up a website when it makes sense. So I'm still obviously kind of like thinking this through, and we still have some time before we reach that 4,000 hour threshold on YouTube. So what I'm thinking is I'll keep looking at affiliates, I'll keep doing some research on different platforms to use, and starting February 1st, we'll launch all of this and start doing giveaways February 1st. So my goal is to make it as convenient as possible so we don't have to spend all this time on the business aspect of it. We can focus more on our goal of getting better at no-gi jiu-jitsu. But this is a critical time for the channel, and I thought it was important to be super transparent in my decision-making process throughout this time. So I hope you guys appreciate the transparency, and I really want this to be a community where we grow together and just get really, really good. So with that said, let's get into the Combat Jiu-Jitsu world. All right, so the goal of this video is to learn what we can from the best in the world. So first, we're going to talk about leg locks. We got to touch on leg locks. 2, we're going to talk about guard passing. 3, we're going to discuss some honorable mentions, just kind of some random things I noticed. And then 4, we're going to talk about the match between Craig and Cowboy and what we can take away from that match. So first, leg locks. Now, one of the primary reasons I think it's so important to study leg locks is because it makes you very effective at transitioning from defense to offense. So you'll see Jordan Hawley is the top player here, and he's being threatened with an omoplata. Now, Jordan is someone who is very, very good at attacking the legs. So instead of just escaping the omoplata, he turns it into an opportunity to attack the legs and uses the 50-50 position to get the submission. Now, the reason this works so well is because when your opponent throws up their legs to attack a triangle or an omoplata, they are doing so by extending their legs. And when we're searching for a leg lock, what we're looking for is an extended leg. So leg dominant submissions like omoplatas or triangles leave our opponent's legs vulnerable to be counterattacked. It's also important to note that leg locks themselves have this same drawback. So when you're going for a leg lock on someone, you are leaving yourself exposed to be counterattacked. And just as many boxers have made a career out of counterattacking their opponent, more and more jiu-jitsu players, especially that focus on leg locks, are becoming better and better at counterattacking their opponent and making that transition from defense into offense. Now, another thing I've noticed recently in the leg locking world is this kind of half inversion to expose the heel. So if we look at Jordan here, he's inverting underneath his opponent, and if he were to complete this inversion, he would land on his left hip. However, he stops halfway through, wraps the heel, and then falls back to his right hip to attempt to complete the heel hook, right? Now, in this scenario, it doesn't really work out for him. But we've seen Gordon do this, where Gordon goes to invert underneath his opponent just to catch the heel. And then he falls back to that same hip that he started on to complete the submission. All right, now this will be the last thing on leg locks, but I thought this entry was so smooth we had to talk about it. Now, Jordan starts this match with a beautiful elevation and back steps into inside Senkaku for the finish. So from a defensive standpoint, how do we address this? If we start to get elevated and our opponent is turning their head to a side, we know which leg has to be the backstepping leg. It has to be this leg over here to enter into inside Senkaku. So what we can't do is we can't fall to the same side as our opponent's head. That leaves the space behind our knee very vulnerable to a backstep. It's the same idea that we can't knee slice if we're in butterfly half. So if we find ourselves here in butterfly half guard, we cannot continue to pass towards the side of our opponent's head. If we try to knee cut through this guard, we're going to find ourselves inside Senkaku. Or if we just allow ourselves to fall to our hip, they're going to backstep like we saw Jordan do. So we're going to be in inside Senkaku danger when we continue to work on the same side as our opponent's head. Now you'll see Jordan try to do this entry again on Keith Krikorian. And he starts to elevate Keith and make that angle, right? His head is turning the corner. So what he wants to do is that same backstep. But what Keith does is he knee slices in the other direction and even goes as far to put his butt on the floor to hide that leg from the backstep. So instead of working on the side that our opponent's head is turning towards, Keith knee cut to the opposite side, which hid his leg from the inside Senkaku entry. Now Jordan does the same thing to Keith later on in the match from butterfly half guard. He uses that same principle of not going in front of his opponent's guard, but walking them back towards the center line and then working to untie that butterfly hook. Now, immediately when I saw this, I thought of Placido's match in ADCC, where he starts off being attacked with an omoplata, and then finds himself in X guard with his hands on the floor. Now, anyone watching the match at this point would probably say that the bottom player is winning. They're in X guard with both of their opponent's hands on the floor, and Placido's foot is hovering. He's not even on the ground, right? So the bottom player definitely has the advantage in this scenario. Now look at the time here. It's 1:01 left in the match. And as I let this play, just 3 seconds later, Placido is finishing the match with a heel hook. So that just reiterates that leg locks make the transition from defense to offense very seamless. And that is why they are a big part of our study on this channel. So now making our way back to Jordan's situation from butterfly half guard, he walks his opponent back to the center line and creates kind of like an X guard scenario where he backsteps out, leaving that leg kind of floating to be attacked. Now he doesn't attack it as directly as Placido did, but he does end up working his way into an inside heel hook entry on that leg. Now that we've spent over 10 minutes talking about business and leg locks, let's get into guard passing. So when we're passing someone's guard, we always want a crossface and an underhook ideally, right? And a good way for us to make our crossface stronger is to take our knee off the ground and turn our hips so one is higher than the other, which gives us a greater ability to control our opponent's chin with our crossface. Taking our knee off the ground also makes it very difficult for our opponent to just hit a simple knee lever and off balance us or even sweep us. Now the downside is by taking our knee off the ground, it pretty much always gives our opponent the ability to pummel a butterfly hook inside. And a lot of times, especially nowadays with leg locks, opponents are getting really good at using that butterfly half guard to recover their position. So it's important to realize that there's two battles going on when you're passing the guard. There's a battle of the upper body and a battle of the lower body. And if you have a crossface and an underhook, you're winning the upper body battle. But by taking your knee off the ground, a lot of times you're giving them the ability to win that lower body battle, which they can use to recover their guard. So now this is from that same match from Combat Jiu-Jitsu. It's just later. And you can see the adjustments that the top player made. Now he's triangling his legs, almost solidifying his knee on the ground to prevent that butterfly hook from coming in. And he even throws in a butterfly hook of his own. So now he has a crossface, he has an underhook, he's winning the upper body battle, and he has a butterfly hook with the lower body. And that allows him to pass the guard successfully. Now we'll see Keith employing that same triangle tactic to prevent that butterfly hook from coming in. And he takes a more opportunistic approach and just kind of steps over to mount, but you'll see his hips are staying relatively flat while he's passing the guard. Now some honorable mentions here. We've talked about how I think the best way to finish an armbar is to pummel that torso leg into a second crossface leg to achieve that 3/4 Jujigatami position. That way you have the ability to threaten the arm and the triangle at the same time. Now in Combat Jiu-Jitsu World, we saw the exact opposite. We saw the crossface leg being pummeled into a torso leg. So now you no longer have a crossface leg. And one of the primary benefits of having two crossface legs is that it makes it very hard for your opponent to do that classic hitchhiker escape. Now, with two torso legs, it's going to be very easy for them to do that hitchhiker escape. But Ben Eddy knows this, and his opponent walks right into this triangle here. Now, these next few honorable mentions are things that we've talked about recently, so I just thought it was a good opportunity to kind of market those videos and just kind of re-emphasize these principles here. So you'll see Jordan trying to do a knee cut on his opponent, and he has an underhook, but he does not have a crossface. So he has to control that side of his opponent's head with his head. But his opponent is doing a really good job of winning that head position battle, and that allows him to stop this knee cut pass and recover his guard. Now, again, if you don't know what we're talking about, I'll leave the link in the description below so you can dive into more detail on the knee cut pass. Now, again, this next honorable mention we've talked about in our recent video on the butterfly sweep, and that link will be in the description below. But Jordan tries to hit a butterfly sweep on Keith Krikorian, and Keith is able to make himself very, very heavy because he's able to smash Jordan's underhook. And he's able to smash that underhook because Jordan's head is not on the same side as that underhook. Now, in this situation, Jordan might have not even been able to have swept Keith. But if your head is on the same side as your underhook, even if you don't get a successful sweep, it opens up things like the shoulder crunch position where you can start entering into an attacking sequence. Now we have finally made our way to the main event of the evening, where we have Craig Jones taking on Donald Cowboy Cerrone. And I think the main takeaway from this match is how well Craig uses overhooks. Like in jiu-jitsu, we always make a big deal out of getting the underhook, but Craig is someone who really uses an overhook very, very effectively. And you'll see from wrestling, he's constantly using it to transition to a Russian arm. We can also employ the same tactic from the ground. If we take an overhook, it can very easily turn into a Russian arm. Now, I'm not really too versed on the Russian arm, so maybe that's a video for another time, but there's a lot of wrestling techniques that I'm sure can be transferred to jiu-jitsu. And then when you're talking about jiu-jitsu specific techniques, I'm sure there are a lot of fun things we can do, like enter into the legs off of the Russian arm. But even just from an overhook, there are still high percentage throws that you can do. And Craig has kind of made a name for himself by using that overhook to set up triangles, either from the standing position or from his famous Z guard. Now, even if a throw were to fail and you end up in the bottom position, you can still use that overhook to sweep your opponent. And you can see here, it doesn't even need to be a deep overhook. Craig just has a shallow grip on Donald's armpit, and he's able to use that to pull Donald enough on top of him to complete the sweep. So I hope you guys found the video helpful. And again, February 1st is going to be the launch date for our Patreon or whatever platform we decide to use. So please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on the giveaways that are going to happen once we launch. So subscribe, share, and we'll see you in the next video.